Abstract, global attitudes toward artificial intelligence reveal a paradox. Nations leading AI development express greater skepticism, while countries historically cautious about Western innovation show remarkable optimism. This divergence reflects not technological literacy, but deeper questions about institutional trust, distributional fairness, and whether citizens believe they will benefit from disruption. Drawing on comparative innovation studies, organizational justice research, and economic sociology, this article argues that AI adoption succeeds or fails based on the perceived legitimacy of the systems deploying it. Organizations cannot technology manage their way past institutional distrust. The article examines how distributive fairness, procedural transparency, and psychological contracts shape technology acceptance, offering evidence based strategies for building technology governance that stakeholders experience as inclusive rather than extractive. Recent polling data reveal a striking geographic split in AI sentiment. The United States, birthplace of OpenAI, Google, and the Silicon chip, registers among the more anxious populations globally regarding artificial intelligence. China, often characterized by Western observers as controlling and opaque, shows considerably higher optimism toward AI. This inversion defies conventional assumptions about technological sophistication and political openness. The pattern suggests something fundamental. Public responses to transformative technology are not primarily about the technology itself. They are referendums on institutional trust and distributional expectation. When someone answers, "How do you feel about AI?" they are articulating a judgment about whether the next wave of change will lift them or leave them behind. This matters urgently for organizations deploying AI. Companies investing billions in machine learning capabilities discover that technical capability means little if employees, customers, or regulators perceive the deployment as extractive. The practical stakes are immediate. Failed AI initiatives, talent exodus, regulatory backlash, and competitive disadvantage against firms that earn social license for innovation. The AI governance landscape. Defining institutional trust in the technology context. Institutional trust reflects citizens' or employees' confidence that organizations and governments will act in their interests, even when direct monitoring is impossible. Fukuyama, 1995. In technology deployment, trust determines whether people interpret new capabilities as tools for shared prosperity or instruments of exploitation. Organizational justice research distinguishes three dimensions particularly relevant to AI governance. Colquitt et al., 2001. Distributive justice. Do outcomes feel fair? Who captures the gains from automation? Procedural justice. Are decisions made through transparent, consistent processes that give affected parties voice? Interactional justice. Do institutions treat people with dignity and provide honest explanation for changes? When AI deployments violate any dimension, resistance emerges regardless of technical merit. A predictive scheduling algorithm may optimize labor costs while destroying workers' ability to plan childcare, violating distributive and interactional justice simultaneously. State of practice, the global AI trust divide. Cross-national surveys consistently show developed Western democracies expressing greater AI skepticism than some emerging economies. This paradox becomes comprehensible when we recognize that technology attitudes appear to correlate with recent economic trajectory and institutional performance. Populations experiencing decades of wage stagnation, collapsing manufacturing employment, and visible corporate influence over political systems may view disruption with warranted suspicion. Conversely, populations experiencing rapid infrastructure development and poverty reduction may welcome technological acceleration. Recent analysis suggests that AI functions as an organizational solvent, dissolving traditional employment structures into task based, algorithmically coordinated work. This dissolution can enable extraordinary organizational agility, as demonstrated by companies like Shane, achieving multi-billion-dollar valuations through real-time trend detection, coordinating thousands of micro-manufacturers. But the same capabilities that create organizational value often destroy the stable employment relationships that historically provided workers identity, dignity, and economic security. Organizational and individual consequences of AI implementation. Organizational performance impacts. AI capabilities appear to deliver measurable productivity gains across sectors. Consulting estimates suggest generative AI could add trillions annually to global economic output through productivity enhancements in customer operations, software development, and research. Companies successfully deploying AI in core operations often report efficiency improvements in the first implementation year. However, these aggregate gains mask dramatic variance in outcomes. Organizations attempting AI deployment without addressing governance, transparency, or worker voice appear to experience high implementation failure rates. Even technically successful deployments can destroy organizational value when they trigger talent loss, regulatory intervention, or customer backlash. A critical mediator appears to be institutional trust. Research suggests that high trust organizations implementing AI tools may achieve both stronger adoption and better business outcomes than low trust counterparts. Dirks and Farron, 2001. Trust functions as organizational infrastructure, enabling rapid coordination around change. Individual well being and stakeholder impacts. The human costs of AI driven restructuring appear most vividly in platform labor markets. Algorithmic management systems optimize economic efficiency while often degrading worker autonomy, predictability, and dignity. Couriers face financial penalties for delays beyond their control. Drivers cannot question opaque performance ratings. Warehouse workers internalize surveillance rhythms that leave them physically and psychologically depleted. These experiences concentrate among populations already experiencing labor market precarity. In the United States, communities devastated by manufacturing decline face a second wave of disruption as AI enables further task fragmentation and offshoring. The psychological impact extends beyond economics. When work provides neither security nor dignity, communities lose social cohesion and individuals lose hope. Ocean Vuong's novel On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous, captures this devastation through the character of Trevor, a young man in a decaying New England town with limited prospects. The gap between promised futures and actual realities creates unbearable dissonance. Vuong, 2019. This literary portrayal reflects broader research on communities experiencing economic abandonment and deaths of despair, documented by Case and Deaton, 2020. The contrast with workers in rapidly developing economies is instructive. Workers may face brutal platform economy conditions in both contexts, but their interpretation differs based on whether they perceive their struggle as occurring within a society, ascending overall, or one stagnating. The difference is not the technology, but the social context. Is your suffering part of collective progress or individual abandonment? Evidence based organizational responses. Organizations cannot technology manage their way past institutional distrust. AI governance requires deliberate design to address distributive fairness, procedural transparency, and interactional dignity. The following interventions draw on organizational justice and change management research. Transparent communication and algorithmic explainability. AI systems affect people's livelihoods, but their decision logic often remains opaque even to system operators. This opacity violates procedural justice, triggering resistance regardless of actual fairness. Research demonstrates that explaining algorithmic decisions can increase acceptance, even when the decisions themselves remain unchanged. Effective transparency goes beyond technical documentation to provide stakeholders actionable understanding. What data drives this decision? What factors can I influence? How can I contest outcomes I believe unfair? Effective approaches include plain language decision explanations, translate technical model outputs into concrete, action oriented feedback. Regular algorithmic audits with published results demonstrate ongoing commitment to fairness monitoring. Accessible contest mechanisms provide real channels for challenging decisions with human review guaranteed. Proactive communication about system changes. Announce algorithm updates before deployment, explaining rationale and expected impacts. Some technology companies have implemented transparent AI principles when deploying predictive systems. These approaches typically include publishing documentation explaining how recommendations work, what data feeds them, and how users can adjust algorithmic suggestions. Critically, effective implementations build override capabilities, allowing people to contest algorithmic judgments, and provide feedback loops ensuring these contests inform model improvement. This transparency can reduce resistance from teams who initially fear AI will replace human judgment. Procedural justice in deployment decisions. Employees and customers may accept change more readily when they experience genuine voice in decisions affecting them, even when their preferred outcomes don't prevail. Lind and Tyler, 1988. Procedural justice requires more than token consultation. Stakeholders must see their input genuinely considered and receive honest explanation when it cannot be accommodated. Effective approaches include stakeholder councils with decision authority, grant affected groups formal representation in governance structures, pilot programs with opt in participation, allow employees to volunteer for initial AI deployments, building internal champions, iterative rollout with feedback incorporation, demonstrate responsiveness by visibly adjusting systems based on user experience. Veto mechanisms for particularly disruptive changes. Recognize some disruptions require broader consensus before implementation. Healthcare organizations have experimented with implementing AI diagnostic support through participatory processes. Some hospitals have formed working groups including practitioners of varying experience levels, given them authority to approve or reject proposed AI tools, and required vendors to address practitioner concerns before purchase. When practitioners experience genuine voice in decisions affecting their practice, even when some tools are rejected, reported satisfaction tends to be higher than in top down implementation approaches. Capability building and transition support. AI restructures work, often eliminating routine tasks while demanding new skills. Organizations that invest in helping workers transition to evolved roles may earn greater trust and achieve better implementation outcomes than those treating workers as disposable. Asemoglu and Restrepo, 2019. Effective capability building is forward looking, treating workers as assets to develop rather than costs to minimize. It acknowledges that even motivated workers cannot instantly acquire complex new competencies and provides genuine support through transition periods. Effective approaches include paid training during work hours, signal organizational commitment by bearing financial cost of skill development, career pathway mapping, show concrete progression routes from current roles to AI adjacent positions, mentorship and peer learning networks, leverage experienced workers to accelerate capability diffusion, temporary dual role assignments, allow workers to gradually shift responsibilities rather than facing abrupt replacement. Large technology and telecommunications companies have undertaken significant reskilling initiatives as their industries transformed. These programs typically involve substantial investment in tuition reimbursement and learning platforms, creation of clear career pathways showing how workers can transition between roles, and implementation of mentorship connecting experienced employees with those learning new skills. When employees experience genuine investment in their futures rather than disposal, organizational trust tends to strengthen even amid significant technological disruption. Equitable gain sharing mechanisms. The distributive justice question haunts all AI deployment. Who captures the productivity gains? When workers see automation enriching executives and shareholders while their own compensation stagnates or disappears, resistance is rational and justified. Organizations building sustainable AI advantage may benefit from designing explicit mechanisms, ensuring stakeholders share gains from productivity improvements. This is not charity but strategic necessity. Employees who benefit from automation may become champions rather than resistors. Effective approaches include productivity bonuses tied to AI performance gains, create direct linkage between automation value and worker compensation. Equity participation for affected workers, grant ownership stakes ensuring workers share long term organizational value. Work hour reduction without wage cuts, translate productivity gains into improved quality of life rather than headcount reduction. Redeployment guarantees with pay protection. Commit that workers whose roles are automated will receive equivalent compensation in new positions. Some organizations have experimented with innovative gain sharing models when deploying AI tools across engineering or knowledge work. rather than simply measuring productivity gains and capturing the value at the corporate level. Some approaches involve translating efficiency improvements into protected time for workers to pursue learning, contribution to collective knowledge, or exploratory projects. This model can potentially transform AI from a perceived threat into an opportunity for more interesting work. Regulatory compliance and proactive governance. Organizations can defensively comply with emerging AI regulations or proactively build governance structures that exceed minimum legal requirements. The latter approach may build trust while creating competitive advantage against firms waiting for regulatory enforcement. Strong AI governance addresses not only algorithmic bias and privacy, but also power asymmetries and accountability gaps inherent in automated systems. It recognizes that technical fairness metrics may mask genuine injustice, and that affected communities should have real power to shape deployment. Effective approaches include independent algorithmic impact assessments, commission external audits evaluating systems against justice criteria, not just accuracy metrics. Worker data collectives support employee organization to negotiate data usage terms collectively rather than individually. Algorithmic accountability officers with executive authority create leadership roles responsible for AI governance with sufficient authority to halt harmful deployments. Community advisory boards for public facing systems grant affected populations formal input into systems shaping their experiences. Some municipal governments have pioneered AI governance approaches that involve creating public registries, documenting algorithmic systems in use, publishing impact assessments for high stakes applications, and establishing citizen advisory mechanisms. When residents transition from passive subjects of algorithmic power into active participants in technology governance, trust may build even in domains typically marked by adversarial relationships. Building long term institutional resilience. Tactical interventions improve specific AI deployments, but sustainable success requires deeper cultural and structural transformation. Organizations that thrive through technological disruption appear to cultivate several foundational capabilities. Psychological contract recalibration. The traditional employment contract promised stability, predictability, and career progression in exchange for loyalty and effort. AI driven restructuring has already shattered this bargain for many workers. Organizations can either ignore the wreckage or deliberately build a new compact appropriate for fluid, technology mediated work. The new psychological contract acknowledges uncertainty while providing different forms of security. Portable skills rather than job tenure, transparency rather than paternalism, genuine voice rather than top down benevolence. Rousseau, 1995. It treats workers as capable adults who can handle honest information and make informed choices about their futures. Leading organizations may benefit from articulating this new contract explicitly. They communicate clearly about which roles face automation risk while simultaneously demonstrating genuine investment in transition support. They abandon pretense of permanent employment, but provide robust capability development ensuring workers can thrive in dynamic labor markets. They grant employees real authority over technology deployment affecting their work rather than imposing decisions from above. This recalibration requires consistent demonstration, not one time announcements. Every restructuring, every AI deployment, every workforce decision either reinforces or undermines the new compact. Organizations building resilient trust recognize that psychological contracts are rewritten through accumulated experience, not eloquent mission statements. Distributed leadership and worker voice. Traditional organizations concentrate decision authority at the top, assuming executives possess superior information and judgment. AI challenges this assumption by pushing operational decisions to algorithms and by making frontline worker knowledge increasingly valuable for system improvement. Organizations achieving sustainable AI advantage may benefit from distributing leadership more broadly. They recognize that workers operating AI systems daily possess critical insight into failure modes, bias patterns, and improvement opportunities that distant executives cannot access. They build formal structures ensuring this knowledge shapes technology governance. Distributed leadership goes beyond suggestion boxes and employee surveys. It means worker representation on AI ethics committees with genuine decision authority. It means mandatory consultation with affected teams before algorithm deployment. It means transparent escalation paths when frontline workers identify problems with algorithmic systems. This distribution may serve strategic, not just ethical purposes. Organizations that tap distributed intelligence may adapt faster, catch problems earlier, and build more robust systems than those relying solely on centralized expertise. Worker voice can function as a competitive advantage, not merely a concession to political pressure. Purpose alignment and collective progress narratives. The contrast between despair in economically abandoned communities and determination among those experiencing collective advancement illuminates a fundamental truth. People endure extraordinary hardship when they believe their struggle serves collective advancement. Conversely, even modest disruption may trigger fierce resistance when it feels like individual abandonment within societal stagnation. Organizations deploying AI successfully appear to articulate compelling narratives connecting individual change to collective purpose. They demonstrate concretely how automation serves missions that stakeholders value: better customer outcomes, breakthrough scientific discoveries, more accessible services, environmental sustainability. Critically, these cannot be marketing slogans. Purpose alignment requires organizations to actually pursue missions beyond shareholder value maximization and to demonstrate that AI deployment genuinely advances those missions. Employees detect cynical purpose washing instantly. Healthcare organizations provide instructive examples. When hospitals deploy AI diagnostic tools, they can frame the change as replacing radiologists or as enabling radiologists to focus on complex cases while AI handles routine screening. The technical deployment is identical. The narrative determines whether radiologists become advocates or resistors. Organizations succeeding with the latter narrative demonstrate genuine commitment through investment in professional development, preservation of clinical autonomy, and visible improvement in patient outcomes. The most resilient organizations go further, connecting individual work to societal benefit. They show concretely how efficiency gains from AI enable expanded service to underserved populations, accelerated research into neglected diseases, or reduced environmental impact. They help employees understand their automation displaced routine work as liberation to pursue higher value contributions to missions they care about. This narrative work is not manipulation, but meaning making. Research suggests humans are deeply motivated by purpose in their efforts. Organizations that help stakeholders connect their AI transformed work to collective human flourishing may tap powerful motivational resources that fear based compliance can never access. Conclusion: the global AI trust divide reveals a fundamental insight. Technological acceptance depends less on sophistication than on institutional legitimacy. People welcome disruption when they believe the future includes them and resist when they perceive extraction. Organizations cannot market or technically optimize their way past this reality. AI governance requires deliberate institutional design addressing distributive fairness, procedural transparency, and interactional dignity. The evidence suggests that organizations earning stakeholder trust through transparent communication, genuine voice, capability investment, equitable gain sharing, and strong governance may achieve both better AI outcomes and stronger competitive positions. The deeper work involves cultural transformation, recalibrating psychological contracts for an uncertain era, distributing decision authority to leverage frontline intelligence, and articulating compelling narratives connecting individual change to collective purpose. These capabilities cannot be purchased or deployed. They must be cultivated through consistent demonstration over time. The practical implications are immediate. Before your next AI deployment, ask not what can this technology do, but how will this change feel to those it affects. Design implementation to strengthen rather than erode institutional trust. Invest in capability building, create genuine voice mechanisms, share gains equitably, and connect change to purpose that stakeholders value. The question is not whether to adopt AI, but how to deploy it such that people believe the future includes them. Organizations answering this question well will thrive. Those ignoring it will discover that technical capability means nothing without social license. The choice is not between innovation and stagnation, but between inclusive progress and extractive disruption. The technology is neutral. The institutions deploying it are not.